Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Alien Force Retrospectives. And today we're going to be looking at episode 38 of Ben 10 Alien Force Busy Box. And in this episode, the episode opens with Ben, Gwen, and Kevin just driving around Bellwood looking for something. Apparently, Kevin on Kevin's tools, he's discovered it's picking up something in Bellwood. Pretty much a piece of alien tech that, according to his scanners, is about level 20, which the group is astounded by because the only level 20 tech in the entire universe is the Omnitrix. And even Kevin says that might not even be this case because that 20 is just as far as his scanner goes. Whatever it is could be even more powerful. As such, they realize they need to find it, and so Gwen manages to use her tracking spell to find it, only in this case, she does it in a different way. Like, a constant thing in the show is that she can track people by their mana, but she has trouble with... excuse me. But she has trouble with machines. However, she thinks, what if it worked in reverse? And so she kind of reverse engineers her tracking spell to kind of find anything but machines. And so when the mana hits what they're looking for, they see a flash of light in the distance, and when they go to check it out, they find a box in an alley. Some weird green glowing box with metal plates surrounding it. Ben goes to approach it, and Gwen and Kevin think that he should be careful when he touches it, when he gets near it. But however, when Ben touches it, suddenly the box just lights up, and suddenly it actually transforms. It shifts and transforms into a complete double of Ben. It looks exactly like him. The metal around it reconfigures to resemble him, has the same figure, same voice. The only thing that's off is that, well, the voice is his. It's obviously mechanized, and his eyes are just glowing green. They're wondering what that... Of course, they think this thing looks cool, and Kevin thinks that, well, maybe it could sell well on the black market. And when we see that as Kevin approaches the duplicate, it transforms again, only this time it transforms into Kevin. And I should probably note that Kevin's wearing his ID mask, so he looks normal here. However, when the android starts copying him, because it's copying everything they're saying, Kevin winds up trying to shut it up and puts his hand over its face, and in response, it does the same thing to him, but only it actually hits him, knocking him to the ground and damaging his ID mask, which in turn causes the android to look like him when he's in his amalgam state. Kevin winds up getting annoyed by this, and so they start thinking that whatever this thing is, it's hostile, so Ben gets ready to go alien, but at that point, this box shifts into him again, and so he transforms into Humongosaur to fight it. And what's also interesting, and again, just like the android copies him again, as it opens up its wrist, showing off a copied Omnitrix, and when it slaps down as well, suddenly it reconfigures again into Humongosaur. Complete with the glowing eyes, the mechanized voice, and what's actually more interesting is that the Omnitrix symbol on its chest is glowing the same glow as the eyes, not the usual Omnitrix glow. As such, the trio ends up fighting this thing, but it's actually a good match. First, they try whatever they throw at it, it actually manages to copy. Because during the fight, it's able to match Humongosaur's strength. Ben goes Spider Monkey to fight it off, and so tries to web it up, but it turns into Spider Monkey in response. It turns into Kevin's amalgam form, is actually able to replicate his powers, and even turns into Gwen. And while it can't create constructs, it is able to shoot out pink discs that resemble her constructs. However, through all the fighting, Gwen starts to realize something. This thing is not fighting them because it's hostile. It's fighting them because they seemed hostile. They wanted to fight it, and so it just copied what they were doing. So Gwen decides that if they just try to be calm, maybe it'll be able to stop the android, and it does for a while, as Gwen gets it to meditate with her, and when Ben transforms back, they realize that if they don't fight this thing, then it won't fight them. So they think, well, okay then, if we just don't do anything, then we'll just sit there and do nothing until someone else arrives. The Riedel brothers, complete in their same ship and everything. They arrive on the scene, and it turns out that they're looking for this particular android. It turns out that apparently what they're looking for something, I forgot what it was called, an Azeron Destroyer or something, I don't remember. I'm just gonna call it a box, but I'm just gonna call it the box. Bottom line, they were looking for this box. Apparently, there's a bounty out on it. And so their plan is to steal the box and sell it on the black market because of what it can do. As such, they go in and grab the thing, which is replicating Ben, and so they realize this thing with what it can do and what it's been able to do and how it can copy anything. They realize they can't let the Real Brothers take it, so Ben goes Swamp Fire to fight them. However, this in turn provokes the box again as it shifts into Swamp Fire and shoots out these red orbs that resemble that are meant to copy Swamp Fire's fireballs. Unfortunately, again, we also start seeing something of the android. We see that it's starting to adapt as it starts shifting into as at one point it shifts into Octagon Riedel, only it can still shoot its fireballs and even creates a metal hammer mace on its hand similar to Kevin's. As such, it fends off the trio and actually does go with the Riedel brothers, and they manage to fly away. And for some reason, the trio is taking this incredibly well. Like, they know this thing is dangerous, but I don't know. For some reason, after the Riedel brothers take it, they're like, want to go get smoothies? Which I don't get. I personally think that they should still be worried because the Riedel brothers are idiots, and and with that thing on their side, it could be trouble. And on top of that, if they sell it to the highest bidder, it could be even more trouble for somewhere out in the galaxy. But I don't know. They take it too well. I mean, they still do lament the fact that they lost the Riedel brothers, but they're not taking it as well as they thought as you think they would be. However, in this scene, we also kind of get something that I'll get into when I talk about the box as the bad guy. Gwen thinks that when they fought this thing, it didn't seem like a weapon, so to speak. That she thinks it might have been wrong, but even with that analogy, they don't know what it is or why. They still don't know what it is. So however, before they can think too hard on it, the Riedel brothers come back, and at first they think they're there for a fight. Only now they're apologizing. They're saying, "We're sorry for what we did. We were wrong, and we want to give this thing back to you." And the group is wondering, "What are you talking about?" And it turns out that they kind of screwed up. As previously we saw that the thing was growing and adapting and copying other abilities. It turns out that when the Riedel brothers are transporting it, they were pulled over by some cops because they shot a toll booth because they didn't have exact change. They wound up shooting the cop, but it in turn affected the android, as it took that action and has adapted further, and as when they're talking about it, it breaks out of the Riedel brothers' cargo hold as Humongosaur. And they reveal that, yeah, the violent action that the Riedel brothers did, it's caused the android to become completely violent. As it shifts its hands into lasers and begins just shooting up the area with people running for their lives. The Riedel brothers then just say, "It's your problem now, have fun," and get in their ship. But before they can get too far, the android winds up blowing up the ship, killing the Riedel brothers for now. I'll talk about that in the next vlog, but yeah, anyway. Pretty much, they realize that this thing is just getting worse. It's become that whatever it is, it's now just provoked on the rampage, and just kind of make things even worse. Remember how I said it was a kind of integrating things from what it's fought before? It shifts again, only this time it turns into an amalgam of all the aliens Ben transformed into while fighting it. Like, it's got its top half of its head and top half of its body, and is Humongosaur, complete with Humongosaur's tail, but it's got the lower abdomen of Spider Monkey, some of Swamp Fire's heads. It's got 4 eyes like Spider Monkey. It's pretty much, and it's even, the back legs are Swamp Fire legs. Pretty much, it's turned into an amalgam of all three, and it is very threatening. The group realizes that, and even the robot exemplifies it when it repeats Ben's phrase of "this isn't good." And they realize that with all this combined, this thing is a very definite threat. It's attacking anything. It's got the power. It has the combined powers of everything they've seen, including all of Ben's aliens. So in an attempt to fight it, Ben goes Lodestar, attempted to go Humongosaur, and they realize that maybe they can damage it. They need to damage it somehow. They need to get to its power source. But even then, they know that that's going to be difficult, because earlier on, they actually did manage to destroy the outer shell for the box, but it recovered. It rebuilt itself into another form. As such, they know they need to find a way to just shut it down, and they think the best bet is the thing's Omnitrix symbol, because when it turned into the amalgam, it still has the Omnitrix symbol on its chest, and considering that that part's glowing differently than is glowing similarly to the eyes, I think that maybe that's where the power source lies. However, unfortunately, Gwen winds up offhandedly saying we need to think before we attack, and the android takes that as them throwing off the first shot, and it fires on them. So all the group manages to tries fighting it off as best as they can. They need to find a way to get to the power source, and so that I like the fight scene too. I like kind of the grand stakes, because this thing is shooting lasers out of its hands. It's just big. It's just attacking indiscriminately, and you can see that it is learning just a little bit at a time. And they do. But eventually Kevin is able to get to the Omnitrix symbol and manages to get a crack in it. So Ben is able to use his powers to open up the crack enough so that they can get to see the box inside, and Gwen is able to pull it out, causing the entire structure to just fall to pieces. And so they realize that regardless of what this thing is, they need to destroy it. It's a threat. Sorry, dishwasher. And so Ben is about to pretty much destroy the box when someone else appears. And appearing in a blue flame is this woman that seems to be made of white and blue flames. And they say, you gotta get back, this thing's dangerous. And she says, that's impossible. But then again, you guys are remarkably stupid, or remarkably unintelligent, which they find insulting, but she kind of clarifies. It's because compared to her, apparently she's from a species that's evolved so greatly that they exist in higher planes of existence. And even Ben's like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, you guys only see the third dimension. And he asks, well, how many are there? It's like, only 23 that matter, or 26, I forgot which one it was. But anyway, it turns out that the box, this entire time, wasn't some grand weapon that was meant to destroy everything. It's a children's play toy, at least from this woman's perspective. Apparently, it's her daughter's favorite toy. And the reason it's in Bellwood is because earlier that day, they had been going on a little afternoon stroll through the lower dimensions, aka our planes of existence, and unfortunately the daughter dropped it. And so this entire time, the mother, this woman, has been going around across the dimensions looking for it, and she managed to find it. So she takes the cube and floats it over to the remains of the robot and manages to get the outer shell back on, but keeps it in its cube form, and then finally just leaves, telling them that they probably should have been more careful with this thing, because apparently it's marked for children not under 3 million years of age. I don't know, or something, I don't know. Either way, it's very old. And so she disappears, leaving all the damage behind. So, on the whole, as a filler episode goes, I think this is quite very enjoyable. For what I already mentioned that I'm a fan of dark doppelgangers, and I like seeing this robot just constantly being able to I like seeing this robot copy the powers of all the appearances and powers of all the main characters: Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and something I like and I enjoy about it is just kind of the nature of this thing. Like, as Gwen mentioned before, it didn't seem like a destroyer, a weapon, and in my opinion, I don't think it is. It's like the equivalent of a newborn. Whatever this thing is, when it gained a form and shape, it was just clueless. It didn't know anything about anything. The reason it was, and kind of the reason, for me, I think the reason it was copying was to try and understand. Like, I remember an episode of Doctor Who. This isn't the same circumstances, mind you, and there was an episode of Doctor Who where there was a monster, it possessed a woman, and just little by little, and it possessed a woman on a train, and she wound up copying all the passengers until she centered on the Doctor and began copying what he said, until eventually they were in complete sync. It's kind of a similar situation to me for that. It's trying to learn, in my opinion. It's trying to gain a form for itself, and it's just trying to understand the world around it. That's kind of the whole center with this box. It's trying to learn, and as Gwen said, the reason it was fighting in the first place was because the group fought, and as such, that's exactly why it kind of became what it was. It saw ever since it was conceived, it saw very little calm and various people fighting. Not just the trio fighting it, but Ben and Gwen, but the trio fighting the Vrito brothers or the Vrito brothers destroying things, and when it saw this, it thought, oh, you guys like destroying things, so then I'll destroy things too. I can do that. I'm acceptable. Essentially, in this case, it thinks what it's seeing is okay because from the very moment it gained a form and its an intelligence, that's what it was. That's all it could. That's all it learned. That's all it knew. That's all it saw. It got some moments of calm, but it believes that with all the fighting, this is normal for everything. And and pretty much it's taking everything it's learning and just kind of getting better. It's just kind of just thinking, oh, okay, so if I fight too, then I can get, well, if I use that or what that, it's adapt. I like that. And I like seeing it adapt, integrating more parts of it. It's in many ways, you can kind of see why it's a kid's toy. It's copying to try to fit in. It sees all this fighting and sees the powers used, and it's like the old saying, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. In this thing's case, it's not just imitating to learn, it's imitating to try and be accepted. It went over to the Vrito brothers when Octagon said he was come to your good old Uncle Octagon. It stayed docile when the Tennysons were nice to it. It just seems to want to be. It's like a child. It is like a child, if you ask me. It just wants to be accepted, and the only reason it's fighting back is because it thinks that's what they want. That's what they want to do, and it thinks, okay, then I can play that game. That's and you can kind of see that, and it really is interesting, and I kind of like seeing that as the episode goes on, that it gets more violent. I like seeing it adapt, and I love the amalgam. I like seeing the mishmash of all the various aliens Ben transformed into, and even when it integrates it in. I like kind of seeing how it is just more adapting little by little. Like when Ben goes Humongosaur, it sees Ben transform and it thinks, oh, I'll do that too, and just does the same thing. Again, kind of going back into not just copying because that's what it's programmed to do, but just kind of out of trying to be accepted. So, yeah. And of course, again, there's the Vrito brothers, and they're still entertaining, and they're still very entertaining. I still like seeing, they're both still morons, but Octagon is still the smarter of the two, while Rhomboid is an idiot. Especially, I love the reason, like when they come back and they say how they blew up a toll booth, and their response, and Rhomboid says the reason he blew it up because he didn't have spare change, which I like. And again, I do like seeing the stakes continue escalating. I like seeing the group actually being smart. I even like seeing Kevin they actually do kind of regularly scan for this sort of thing. My only little problem is just kind of the gripe with them just taking the Vrito brothers doing this, taking the box so callously, knowing that so uncaringly, even though they know how dangerous this thing is. But in the end of the day, I think this episode is still just a pretty good episode. I like the threat. I like the questions that surround the box. I like seeing the Vrito brothers again. I like the action. I even like seeing the final battle when you see how this box accumulating everything it's learned into one giant form. So, yeah, on the whole, I still enjoy this episode. So, yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we see the reveal of, honestly, one of my favorite aliens in the entire franchise. So again, I'll see you next week. Take care.